College Coffee Talk. This is a show that we do every week on our Facebook page right here. Sometimes broadcast it out, simulcast it, or recorded cast it out. This is a show that is all about getting into college, paying for college, test prep, getting your applications done, your essays done, you name it, anything that has to do with college. My name is Andy Lockwood, and today not joined by my wife and partner, Pearl Chisner Lockwood, who is out on special assignment, taking her daughter to the doctor for a scheduled appointment. Everything's okay. So I'm flying solo here, but I'm still drinking coffee. So if you have your cup, please engage. You're invited to engage in a simultaneous sip. Here we go. And that is a cold cup of coffee. So what I want to talk about today is kind of an abbreviated version of a webinar I ran a couple of times last week for client and non-client alike that had to do with trying to unpack this last cycle of admissions results. April 1st has come and gone, and most colleges now have issued their acceptances, denials, or wait lists for the class of 2022. So I'm going to chat a little bit just to share my thoughts on what happened this year, because it was a weird year. Every year, a lot of parents and guidance counselors act like the sky is falling and they can't make heads or tails of things. And I usually sort of silently, which is unusual for me, will kind of roll my eyes, because usually I roll them really loudly. But this year definitely was different, and the trends that I have observed over the last couple of years, I think really crescendoed this year. Or, well, maybe not. Maybe they'll be even more pronounced next year, but I don't think so. So a lot of kids didn't get into schools that they, quote unquote, deserved to get in. So there were tons of examples of kids, like getting into an Ivy League school, but not getting into Miami or Bucknell or Tulane, or schools that are, high quality schools, but they're not at that upper echelon, top tier, super competitive school. And, there's a few reasons I think that contributed to these wacky admissions results. But by the way, that does happen every year, but this year it happened more so than ever. So the factors that I can think of, the obvious ones were, number one, test optional policies drove up admissions, application submissions so much more than in years past. So this year, according to the Common App, applications were up 10%, which is a lot, because last year they were up 10% compared to the previous year. So there's been this spike in applications being submitted. There aren't more kids graduating high school, by the way, where I think we're slightly below the peak of high school grads, and that's going to continue to drop. But there are more applications being submitted per student. So what that does is a couple of things. And by the way, it doesn't just happen. These colleges are relentless marketers. So if you're wondering, why you get a ton of emails from colleges you never heard of, or brochures, don't read into them. Don't think that means you're practically accepted, even to an Ivy League school that does that. That's a joke around our house. When my kids get letters from, brochures from Yale, I'm like, Lizzie, you got into Yale a couple years ago. But that doesn't mean anything other than they have purchased those colleges have purchased your name or your kid's name and address from the College Board. Because once you register for the PSAT, the College Board, collects the fee. And then on average, they apparently will sell your name, your child's name, over the next 3 years, 2.5 years, on average 18 times. And colleges can subscribe to that data and purchase it for, I can't remember how much it is. It's like 50 cents a name or 30 cents a name or something. And then they can use that information to send out these direct mail campaigns, which are usually hard copy mail, a ton of emails that kids don't open, and occasionally phone calls and texts. So they do this, and don't feel sorry for them that they got overwhelmed with applications, or don't even virtually pat them on the back when they brag about how their applications were up this year. They've never received any, they've never received more applications. It's a record year for applications. It's almost like, gee, I don't know how this happened, but we know how it happened. It's because they solicited those applications coming in. So that's one thing. What that results in is that colleges really don't have a feel for how many kids will actually show up if they admit them. And that ratio of admitted children to kids who actually matriculate is called the yield. So like an Ivy League school usually has a 50% or higher, maybe 80% yield. But the schools that are less competitive, a good yield is 40% or 30%. A lot of colleges were looking at single-digit yields. At least they were projecting that, or they were nervous about that. So I heard more than one story from an insider. So I can't reveal my sources. Who told me that his college that he worked for, he's in admissions, was considering going out and buying a list of families that were never going to be able to be admitted at all because they lacked the academic credentials in high school, and just so they could solicit applications and then reject them to bump up not only their acceptance rate but also the yield. So pretty hardcore stuff, right? It's not just, these aren't just educational institutions, right? They're businesses, the brass knuckles businesses. So test options sort of drove that, but the second factor, maybe the first factor, is really the colleges embracing direct mail, direct marketing, which has been going on for probably more than 20 years. Then you've got more international students applying this year compared to last year. And you also have the kids who took gap years, who deferred, who are now entering. So these are kids who graduated high school in 2021. They're now joining the cohort of kids who graduate 2022 as they enter college. That wasn't a huge amount of kids, but in some schools it was pretty significant, particularly the smaller schools. And then you've got, just general uncertainty, which pervades the whole process, not just for moms and for kids, but also for the colleges. Circling back to the questions about yield. So I think what that means is, number one, this year there's going to be a lot of movement on the wait lists. So after May 1st comes and housing deposits don't come in, colleges are going to immediately scramble. Some have already started, even Ivy League schools, but for the most part, the next tier down. So if you are waitlisted, your job is to convey to the college, if you let me off the waitlist, I'm going to come. And I'm recommending you do this to only one college. If you don't do that, plenty of other people behave that way. I'm not judging, but my recommendation is to pick a favorite and tell them that. And I'm not on some ethical high horse. I just think that's the right way to do things, though. But like I said, I don't judge. And then update them. It's called a letter of continued interest, coli, not E. coli, just coli. But if you send it by email, I guess it is an E. coli. And you can, let them know, hey, I've continued to take super hard courses, and my grades, have never been better, and I recently received this award, and I'm continuing to do this volunteer stuff, whatever it is that's positive. You don't have to regurgitate everything you've said on your application, and you certainly don't have to write a why are you coming here to this college essay, or why are you applying to this college essay. But you should keep it short and sweet and reiterate all these reasons, any new relevant updates, and shoot it off. I wouldn't do it more than probably twice, 3 times max, just to let them know. Once is probably enough, but I like just to make sure that you're sort of at the front of their brains. And then just be prepared to move quickly. Now, financial aid wise, you may not get the best offer if you're off of a wait list, because usually if you're on the wait list, that's an indication that you're not one of the top draft picks, so to speak, for that college. But I've seen all kinds of crazy things. So, there's I think it's Carnegie Mellon, maybe I've seen a few times where before they admitted someone off the wait list, they sent a letter saying, listen, we're thinking about taking you off the wait list. This is what your financial aid package would look like, hypothetically, if we let you off the wait list. Would this be acceptable to you? I think that's the only college I can recall that does that, something like that. Most of the time, they don't do that. In Carney's case, I think the financial aid packages that I saw that my clients had were the hypothetical ones were pretty good. So you never know, right? But most of the time, it's not a leading indicator that you're going to get a nice financial aid package if you're on the wait list. All right, what does this mean for class of 22? And by the way, let me just say hi to anyone who's here. Hello to Michelle Delutri. Anyone else, if you have any comments, pop them right in here, either live or on replay. Don't be shy. Say hi. And I will pick them up, either now or at some point in the future, near future. So for class 23 kids, what does this mean? I think one of the big lessons that I've always adhered to this, but I think I'm going to be a little bit stronger with my clients this year in insisting, to the extent that I can do that they visit their safety schools, what they perceive to be safety schools. The visits are happening. They happened last year. And visiting is probably the most powerful way to express interest, to show that you actually are indeed, potentially willing to attend that college if they let you in, even if it's beneath you. And the reason for that has to do with the yield. That's the main contributor to colleges like Tulane and Miami and Bucknell not admitting kids that are clearly above the median GPA and SAT or ACT score, whereas in contrast, they admit kids with lesser grades and scores. That's confusing to a lot of people every year, high schools throughout the land and kitchen tables throughout the land. But the reason is because they're protecting their yield. They don't want to admit kids that are not willing to, they don't believe are really genuinely interested in coming, because a lower yield hurts their financial position in ways that are a little too esoteric to talk about. It indirectly hurts the rank. There's other bad things associated with a low yield. So you've got to suck up or show the love to your quote unquote safety schools. I had one kid in particular this year who, great kid, worked hard, did probably 95% of what I recommended. And in that 5% of what he didn't do, one of them was visiting schools, even a local school that he thought was a safety school. And I'm not blaming him, actually. To be fair, his father was the one who said, "Listen, I'll take you anywhere after you get in." Even though we had 2 discussions, probably more, plus lessons like these via group, where I said, they need to believe that if they admit you have a shot at coming. They don't want to be told flat out that they're being used as a safety school, and you're never going to show up. So you very well may end up at a safety school, even though you don't think that's what you deserve. Talked to a whole lot of kids in the last 2 weeks who are attending schools that they thought were safeties. They didn't get into most of the schools that they thought were legitimate target schools. When I was reviewing stuff, I wasn't so sure that I agreed with them after the fact. But what you have to think about is there really such thing as a safety school anymore? So I'm not telling you to fall in love with your safety schools, but you've got to certainly, be a little more enthusiastic about them in your own way. Kids too. So you can't visit every college, but that's a very good demonstrated interest, tactic. So is showing up and registering for the info sessions. So is opening the emails that they send you with, responding to them, engaging with them, following them on social. You can probably brainstorm another half a dozen things to do, but I think that's what's incumbent upon 2023 and younger kids to do in order to combat this yield protection it's rampant. Another thing, I guess I'll just wrap up here, just in case I haven't pissed anyone off yet. the other trend that I noticed, I thought everyone would notice this, but it didn't seem like everyone I spoke to was aware of this. But there's been a widespread embracing of sort of an aggressive recruitment of underrepresented minorities and low-income families this year compared to last year, even by schools that I, formally didn't think of as, going woke, embracing the woke agenda. And specifically one of those schools that I've mentioned a few times is Boston College. Typically they are very aggressive in recruiting, kids from Catholic schools, from parochial schools, kids from neighborhoods that tend to mirror the demographics of kids who go to Catholic schools and parochial schools. And this year, it's been very hard to get into BC from the traditional strongholds, from those areas. And not just BC, but that's what I've witnessed at my micro level, the most sort of pronounced demonstration of this new agenda that I think a lot of schools are embracing. So what that means is if you are, a white guy or girl, or an Asian guy or girl, or Indian, guy or girl, that doesn't mean that you're at a disadvantage necessarily, but it could mean that you've got to work a lot harder because what you have is neutral. It's not an advantage the way it is if you are an underrepresented minority or an international student or something else that is, a special category that's, highly desired, like a recruited athlete or a legacy in most cases, but not all, an international student. So you need to start thinking honestly and looking at the big picture, not being myopic and looking at just the small picture, which might be, oh, my grades are great and my scores are great. And, I'm editor-in-chief of the school magazine. Those are all great things, but if you're applying to a competitive school, there's probably another, 10,000 kids to 50,000 kids who look pretty similar to you. So you've got to start thinking about yourself, if you're younger, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, as a product. Told you I was trying to piss some people off, but I'm really not. Think of yourself as a product that needs to be marketed. How would you objectively market yourself compared to all the competition, not just your friends or other kids in your grade or other kids in your high school who have gone to those particular colleges in the past, but it's really all over the world. You've got to get that perspective. And that's probably the number one thing that most parents and kids and guidance counselors for sure lack is the bigger perspective of actually what admissions officers are looking for. All right, so I am going to wrap up here. Again, if you have anything you want to ask me about, just pop them right in here. And if you want more information, we have all kinds of resources to help a family, of college applicants, whether you're class of 23 or beyond, helping you with the applications and essays. We're running our 7th annual summer boot camp, which you can check out on our website, lockwoodcollegeprep.com/bootcamp. And we have other, free webinars, and we do one-on-one consulting. We do test prep and all that. So it's all there on our website, lockwoodcollegeprep.com. But the boot camps are for this summer. Those are filling up. Those are for class of 2023 kids. So if you are, you get nervous about what the summer is going to look like in terms of your the kids' essays and applications, you don't want to scream and holler at them all summer. That's exactly why we run these boot camps. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great week and good luck in the college process and beyond. Bye-bye.